Hello everyone, my name is Daniel Coviello. I'm a student at PHCC taking public speaking online, and today I would like to talk to you a little bit about one of my favorite athletes of all time and American cultural icon, Mr. Jackie Robinson. Most of you recognize Jackie as the first black man to play professional baseball in the United States, but there is a lot more to his story than what he did for the Brooklyn Dodgers, and that's what I'd like to share with you today. I'm going to talk a little bit about his personal life, his college career, his career in the military, and of course what he did on the baseball diamond. Jackie, as we know him, was born Jack Roosevelt Robinson in 1919. He was born in Cairo, Georgia, but when he was only 6 months old, his family moved down to California. They lived in Pasadena. They lived in a mainly white neighborhood. They were not very wealthy at all. They were very, very poor. Even though they were in an affluent area, all the members of his family had to work. His mother and father both worked 2 jobs, and Jackie and all of his brothers would have to go to work after school to help pay the bills. As Jackie grew up, it was clear that he was a phenomenal athlete, and he was actually able to score a minor scholarship to a local school, Pasadena Junior College. While there, he played baseball, basketball, football, and track. He was such an athlete, he was the starting quarterback for the football team, and he set numerous state records in the long jump and the broad jump for the track and field team. His athletic accomplishments were noticed by other schools, and then he was given the opportunity in 1939 to transfer to UCLA. Again, while at UCLA, he played many sports. He was the first player in the history of the school to be varsity for football, baseball, basketball, and track. While there, he also met his future wife, Rachel. They would start out as friends and colleagues. Later on in life, they would reconnect and get married. In his athletic career at UCLA, baseball, ironically, was his worst sport. He had very poor statistics, a low batting average. He simply wasn't very good. But he was athletic enough to make all the plays. After college, he chased his first professional sports dream, and he played semi-professional football. This was before the integration of the National Football League. It didn't exist yet. So he played in semi-pro leagues in Southern California and actually Hawaii. He was very successful in these leagues, but a little thing called World War II broke out, and that interrupted his football career. Jackie was drafted in January of 1942, shortly after the attack on Pearl Harbor. This is a picture of Jackie at Fort Riley, Kansas. This was, of course, an all-black training camp. The attitude of the country being what it was, naturally he was assigned there. But since Jackie had a college degree, he was able to attend officer school. Now, he met with a great deal of resistance to this, naturally, because he wasn't white. But he finished officer school ahead of his white peers and earned the rank of second lieutenant. Normally, having this rank would mean you would command respect of those beneath you, but that was not the case for a black man in the United States Army in the 1940s. One terrible incident involved Jackie getting onto a bus that was full of new recruits. When we say new recruits, these men were 17, 18, 19 years old, hadn't yet finished training camp. Jackie was supposed to lead these men to camp. But when he got on the bus, the driver didn't care that he was the ranking officer, didn't care that he was a second lieutenant, and demanded that Jackie sit in the back of the bus. Naturally, he refused, and a fight broke out, and Jackie was arrested. He faced a court-martial for these incidents because he was the only black man involved. All of the charges were trumped up to be things beyond a simple fight. He was charged with dereliction of duty, trying to desert his post, and public drunkenness. The last one ironic because Jackie didn't drink. He fought these charges in the military courts up until 1944 when he was finally acquitted. He was actually acquitted by an all-white jury. And he was assigned to another all-black camp far away from Kansas. He was assigned to Fort Breckinridge in Kentucky. And that's where he finished his Army career. And he was actually the director of athletics for the Army in the state of Kentucky. Shortly after that, he returned to pro sports, and this time he tried his hand at baseball. Like many men in his position in the 1940s, he began his career in the Negro baseball leagues. These were a very small, unorganized group of teams composed of all black players. Jackie played for the Kansas City Monarchs, which were essentially the New York Yankees of the Negro Leagues. It was the most successful team. But the Negro Leagues were a very unorganized, poorly structured league. And after his years at UCLA and his years in the Army, he became used to organization and structure. So Jackie left the Negro Leagues after 1 year, and in that 1 year he was the best player. He won the MVP award. And he began to attend tryouts for Major League Baseball teams. Unfortunately for Jackie, most of these tryouts were a complete farce. It was simply a way for the owners of these teams to show how they weren't racist because they were inviting black players to these tryouts. But really the tryouts were a mortifying experience for him and his family. Oftentimes the stadiums were completely empty, no scouts were even there, just the owners of the team and a few members of the media simply there to yell taunts and insults at the black players from the stands. This continued on. He tried for many teams, most notably the New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox, until finally a man named Branch Rickey came along, who was the owner of the Brooklyn Dodgers. Not the LA Dodgers, but the Brooklyn Dodgers. He understood how important it would be for the first black man in professional baseball to get in, not because he was black, but because he was a superior baseball player. He recognized Jackie's talents and he signed him to a contract. And it was a big deal. Jackie's picture was in newspapers all across the country. They didn't print very nice things about him. And that's him right there, signing his contract. He reached the major leagues in 1946, April 15th to be exact. And while in the big leagues, he endured unbelievable racism. The fans would often show up just to insult him. Dodgers games sold out across the country simply because people wanted to come out and torture Jackie Robinson. He was often treated unfairly on the field. Umpires would give calls against him because he was black. Pitchers for the other team would routinely throw at his head to try to injure him. Players would slide in with their spikes pointed up, their metal spikes sharpened specifically to injure Jackie. He was often even hated by players on his own team. They wouldn't let him stay at the same hotel, ride in the same bus, things like that. But he didn't have to fight back. He didn't have to get physical or fiery. Because whatever field he stepped on, he was usually by far the best player. His first full year was 1947, and he won the Major League Baseball Rookie of the Year, given to the league's best player in their first full year. In 1949, he became the league's most valuable player, the award given to the best player in both the American and National League. In 1950, he became the highest paid player in Major League Baseball. Not the highest paid black player or the highest paid player on the Dodgers, but the highest paid player. He participated in the World Series 5 times. The Dodgers won in 1955. He played for 10 years, and for 9 of those years, he was a starter on the All-Star team. He was truly a fantastic player and is considered one of the best second basemen to ever play the game. Upon his retirement, 5 years later, as is the rule in Major League Baseball, he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. And during his acceptance speech, he remarked that he was happy to know he got into the Hall of Fame on the merits of what he accomplished on the field, and not because he was a black man. After he retired, he became a vocal leader for the civil rights movement. He supported Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and he supported any and all politicians that were in support of the Civil Rights Act and fair treatment for all in the United States. In Major League Baseball now, Jackie is an incredibly important figure. His number, which was 42, is retired throughout baseball. No one is allowed to wear it ever. And on April 15th every year, baseball has a really wonderful tradition they do where every player, manager, and coach wears number 42. The idea being that when children see all the players wearing the same number, that they will ask the question, who was number 42? And their mothers and fathers will be able to tell them the story of Jackie Robinson. Jackie was more than just a baseball player. He was a trailblazer. He represented the changes that the United States was going through at this time. And every player who isn't white both in baseball and in other pro sports, has him to look to. He wasn't just a baseball player, he was a transcendent American. And there was a lot more to him than just what he did on the field. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you were able to learn something about my favorite player, well, one of my favorite players, Jackie Robinson.